right, this is my talk through little episode of doing reviews. I'm going to try and what I think what I have found has worked really well for me is when I do a review, it's good to just talk it through first, and then from that talk through construct an actual tighter review. So that's what I'm going to do here. This is all an effort of trying to get myself organized and do tighter, not tighter, do more efficient, more thought out reviews. And today I'm going to be talking about, I've got it plugged in, Savage Bounty, #2 in the Savage Rebellion series by Matt Wallace. When I do the actual review, I think I will get my tablet and be able to show this cover in all its glorious cover versus the grayscale version that you get on my Kindle, which is, I read most of it on my Kindle. I did read some of it on my tablet. So yeah, this is Savage Bounty, the #2 in this 3-book series, published in 2020. Savage Rebellion is the first book, which when I read it, it's like, wow, this is a real step up for Matt Wallace from his Sin du Jour series novellas, which I read before that, which it was like, it was okay, but it wasn't particularly that great. I thought that Savage Rebellion was a real step up, and this book continues that way, showing what feels like kind of almost like a real sense of maturity in his writing, in how he goes about constructing his characters. I'm really impressed with this series. So this is all been centered around the city of Kraish, which is a city empire, which has been internally, the people in control and who benefit from this system kind of view it as this wonderful utopia. Now, this utopia has a underclass of the bottoms, which are people who are, they're the street people. They're the people who are like basically on the brink of starvation all the time. So already you can sort of see the flaws in this. Like, there are plenty of children running around in these streets who are, indeed, one of the main characters is somebody who is crippled and is just scraping by. It's street people. It's like, very much like maybe certain Western societies, Canada, United States come to mind, where it's like, wow, we have so much wealth and beauty. See, I'm already going off on major tangents, but there is a destitute underclass. Now, what we find out in the first book is actually this Kraish Empire has been rampaging around the known world, this known fantasy world. I don't know how much of the fantasy world it is, and crushing and horribly exploiting and just eating up the resources of all the neighboring states and all those neighboring states and those neighboring states brutally for generations, and basically keeping their own citizenry in the dark that this is actually the case. So this book and the last book are definitely about this and other kind of dark secrets, the city empire, and I think, as the back cover says, the underdogs who will try to reveal it or die trying, and also to try and stop it. This is Savage Rebellion is the name of the series, and this is very much about it. Savage in this case is the Savage Legion, which it was bandied about that it was actually just a kind of a criminal class that were put into these basically suicide squads that were hurtled first at the terrible enemies, actually the victims of the Kraish Empire, to break their defenses before sending in the actual troops. Now, what we found out in the first book is that that's not really the case about where these savage legions come from. And indeed, a society that's trying to keep its secrets and keep certain people down is going to find this a very handy place to put a lot of people that disagree with the empire and who are not criminals at all. As with the first book, this is told from multiple viewpoints, very kind of standard epic fantasy thing of characters telling the story from different viewpoints. We've got Lexi, who was a noble who was her and her husband Brio, in the first book, were pleading for the cases of the Bottoms people. They were very much seen as kind of this odd gen class, which is the elite class, not nobles, the elite class in the Kraish city. She's now been sucked into a conspiracy of old nobles trying to regain power. Kind of a bit of that, and a bit of the very sinister police, secret police force that enforces power, is the head of the dark side of enforcing this so-called utopia in Kraish. She indeed has probably what you would think has like the darkest storyline, because she has so little personal control over her fate, and sees just a lot of really horribly messed up stuff. The real dark side of Kraish, and inside the city. Outside the city is Evie, who actually had been sent by Lexi in the first book to try and find her Lexi's husband. She is now the general of the ex-Savage Legion and other allies who are leading this kind of desperate armed rebellion against the vastly superior forces of Kraish. She gets a lot of what you would call the most kick-ass moments. Also, has to kind of come to terms with going from being just sort of the kick-ass single fighter to having to take on the responsibilities of leading a force where she's really afraid she's just like everyone is going to get killed. In that, then you get Taru, who is one of the undeclared, neither male or female. They use the they them pronouns, which it's like, I find this is actually kind of a really cool thing in this book, of like, it's not like hugely commented upon. You get some people who are like an asshole to them about this, but just like having a writer for these sections using they them, and just how much more natural that feels. And I don't think it's because the language has changed much, more as myself as a reader and as a listener to podcasts where you get reviewers who use the they them pronouns more regularly now. It's like, just like how much like, oh, this is just like a normal thing. Because normal for my brain, not reality was probably always like that, but like my brain. So I thought that was interesting. They has ended up on a rock island where they're trying to enlist rock islanders in fighting the Kraish Empire. That very much happens over to kind of one side. Now, the cool thing about this book is that we have Diowan, who is now the head of the planning cadre of Crash, basically the people who are running this empire. And you would think, oh, this is going to be the evil mastermind who we hate. Hiss, it's the villain. But no, Diowan was a street urchin in the first book, who was plucked out by Edgar, who was the head of the planning Kraish book, the planning cadre before her. And she's very much an idealistic young woman who wants the best for her society and is really invested in, I came out of the bottoms. How can I make things so that I can make this a more equitable and just society? She is not aware of the larger picture, though, or at least it does not appear that she is aware of the larger picture of the darker secrets of the Kraish Empire. So while she is engaging in sort of an internal political struggle with another member of the planning cadre, they seem to be coming from it from like, oh, we need to do this and we need to deal with this, the nasty secret police force, which has been in the past a way for us to enforce stuff, but seems to be trying to take over control now. I mean, there's a good question as to whether the planning cadre realizes that they're actually a tool for the police force, what kind of that kind of power struggle is going to be like in the next book. But it's like it's very much coming from like this is a really good person, a really thoughtful person, a really compassionate person who's a part of, you know, they talk about the rebellion and how we have to deal with the rebellion going forward, but you know, seeing it as just like it's a negative thing. It's like, how much do they know? And you know, there is a couple of there's hints in this book that with one of the other storylines that where a character sort of convinces themselves like, oh, they'll want to help us. They'll want to help us is what that character thinks, and that gets disabused by the end in a way that is great in how it kind of it not subverts but just says to a certain kind of heroic, oh, the cavalry is going to ride in and save us all. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. That's not how you know, maybe the world is going to, how this world works. This world is far more realistic, is, you know, how it's going to play out much more how allies and stuff like that operate in our world versus in a fantasy world where of course they're going to sacrifice themselves. So that's Daiwen is this thing really I'm looking forward to in the next book of like, so where is she going to come out? Because it's not this book demonstrates in it demonstrates in this book that it's not a certainty that that they're automatically going to be on the side of the other viewpoint characters. She may very much say, yep, that's too bad, but I need to squash you right now so that I can look at the bigger picture. And people with especially people who do go bigger picture are capable of saying like, well, for the greater good, I'm going to exterminate all of you this little bit over here because it's better for everybody else. There is that in there. So I am looking forward to the next and final book, which has been published. It was published in 2023 called Savage Crowns. So that should be interesting. That should be interesting going forward. This is definitely kind of a middle book, and it feels like we're rearranging pieces. But just talking about that of like, oh, this major hanging thing, the kind of like what's going to happen with Daiwen, that gets really it's interesting how this plot thread, which seemed like a superfluous one, it suddenly snaps in there, and you're like, oh, this really applies to what I'm really invested in with Daiwen. It's yeah. So it's I mean, serious things happen. People do die in this book. Significant people die in this book. It's not like all holding pattern. I think it's probably the best case scenario for a middle book. So I am really looking forward to the next book in the series, which is what you want to do. So yes, I will. So yeah, I'm going to try and take all that and kind of condense it down into a better thing, not go off on tangents. Definitely getting to the characters and just talking about them. And I mean, I guess that's the other thing is to talk is I haven't, you know, I have a good investment in all the characters in these books. So there's that. I like that it kind of calls out that, oh, here's the fantasy kind of cliche that could happen here. And they say, no, it's not going to happen that way. And it's not like in a, oh, I'm subverting expectations ways, but it's like, no, honey, this is how things actually, how people decide to do stuff. And often what you want to happen for one group of people just doesn't make sense, logical sense for another group of people. And they all have their own viewpoints on stuff. Yeah. So, okay, I'll leave it there.